Hi everyone, my name is Amy Zaninovich, and I'll just be talking a little bit about formative assessments and summative evaluations. Formative assessments measure someone's learning progress in a classroom. So they're typically used on a regular basis, and I find them to be a lot less formal than summative assessments that typically are quizzes, tests, and papers. So any formative assessment can include quizzes, games, projects, or even presentations. I consider this to be more flexible than summative assessments. Summative assessments, however, measure what someone has learned throughout the entire course, or a lot of the time I do a summative assessment for what they've learned for a unit. These take place at the end of the course or unit and are frequently cumulative and assess long-term information retention. And so these tend to be tests, quizzes, any sort of formal sort of test-taking setting is what I usually use as a summative assessment. I also, as an English teacher, use a lot of essays and writing responses as well for the summative evaluation. My field of study is English language arts, as I mentioned, and some of the examples of how I would use summative and formative assessments would be from my Macbeth unit, which I just completed last semester in the winter. But formative examples that I used and I continue to use in other sorts of units are group activities, and in Macbeth I had one where students had to create a text message conversation between Macbeth and his wife based off of a scene in the play. This just kind of allowed me to see their understanding along with how they were able to translate the text from Shakespearean language into more informal or common English for today. And then some formative examples that I also use, some summative examples would be quizzes. I gave my students quizzes after each act of Macbeth. This was really just for me to see where they were at with comprehension of the text. And then for the final that I gave them, they had to discuss whether Macbeth or Lady Macbeth can be held accountable for their actions. And so they basically had to argue that, provide text evidence, and I got to see what their key takeaways were, how much they understood each character. And it was really a good benchmark and evaluation for me to assess what they learned, or maybe some areas for my own teaching of where I can improve on, especially with teaching a piece of literature. And again, I use pre-assessment frequently, whether that's day-to-day, weekly, or even by unit. I usually try to start any unit or any new element with an introductory activity to gauge student knowledge and understanding of a specific topic, idea, or element. And then I alter my teaching and lessons based off the information that I gathered, so that way I can better teach them. If they do have any sort of information that I thought they knew and they don't, I can always adjust. And then post-assessments typically help me see the overall growth among the class and individuals and see if they've met the learning goals or not. This knowledge also allows me to continue to develop my instructional practices and learning goals for future lessons and units that I teach.